And a very good day. Welcome to another edition of Catchin' Carp Outdoors, the podcast honoring Minnesota's great outdoors. Thank you for coming with me here today. Today on the program, we're going to go a little different. I wanted to have a podcast that honors all of Minnesota's great outdoors, and that includes horse racing. You don't really think about a lot of that in the wintertime, but hey, that season is just around the corner, and we are lucky enough to have a pretty good track just down the way here that's starting to get set for the 2021 season, as we're going to talk about Canterbury Park and the horse racing season in Minnesota. All the really cold temperatures the last few weeks we've been having here, thought it'd be nice to think warmer here this morning. And, thinking warmer to me means getting outside, and you can get outside at Canterbury Park this year with some nice horse racing going on as that season just kind of got announced. And from Canterbury Park, Jeff Maday joins us here today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Joel. Thanks for having me on.
And I would guess you're probably like all the rest of us Minnesotans that it's exciting. I know the Twins just started their spring training. You guys are starting to get going with your stuff, I would guess. So it's fun to feel the warmer weather coming.
It really is. And when we look at the Canterbury Park race meets, it's only 2 months from when our stable area will open. That's when the horses and the trainers begin to arrive in preparation for that May 18th opener. So this is an exciting time of year because people are making their plans and getting ready. And internally at the track, we're getting ready to put on a show, even though there's still a great degree of uncertainty about what's going to be allowed for outdoor entertainment come May. But we're still getting ready to put on a show for fans because that's really, for those that have been to the racetrack, to Canterbury, the racing is great, but the atmosphere is what really makes it. And we lost out on that last season. So we're really looking forward to welcoming back fans at whatever level it is, knowing that someday we'll get back to 20,000 people coming out to watch fireworks or watch corgi dog races between the horse races or whatever it might be. But this is an exciting time of year because the weather, despite the sub-zero temps, it's changing. The sun's up there. It's summer is coming.
Well, and we're going to talk about 2021 and what's coming up here in a bit. Maybe first back up to 2020 because 2020 wasn't normal for anybody in any sport, in any kind of walk of life. So how was it for the horse racing industry in Canterbury Park? Recap 2020 for us.
Well, 2020 got off to a great start. The first couple of months, I think business was booming. We have a 24/7 card room, and we have year-round simulcasting. So we're open every day of the year, and we employ, in the summer, over 1,000 people, and on a regular basis, close to 500. Well, that all came to a halt mid-March of last year when all entertainment facilities like Canterbury were shut down, and that was a 3-month shutdown. We didn't reopen until June 11, when we were able to bring some fans back and some employees back for our live race meet. Now, we were limited to 250 per floor at that time. So basically 750 racing fans plus 250 could be in the casino at any time. That's well below the average 6,000 that we have on a race day. I mean, for years, we've averaged about 6,500 fans per race day. So certainly well below what we wanted to be able to do, but we were fortunate to be able to race for those 4 months of the summer. For 53 days, we cut our meet from 65 to 53, but we ran uninterrupted. And you're seeing so many sports right now, even that, start and stop. The NBA, there's teams that can't play. The Wild just went through a long stoppage of play for them. We were able to operate that race meet for 53 days without any issues, and that was fantastic. So things were rolling around towards the new year until we were shut down again in November for 2 months, but now we are back and open. Business is pretty good. We just were allowed to increase our capacity to 250 a floor from the 150 that we were at on January 11th. So things are headed in the right direction, and people are acting responsibly. And I think that's the biggest thing for a business, any business, that we can do everything we want internally and have safeguards, but if the customers, if our fans aren't willing to participate, that's where the struggle comes in. And we've been fortunate to have such a great fan base that does take it seriously and realizes that there's a business and there's a lot of jobs at stake. So things were rough in 2020, but 2021 shows a lot of promise.
You mentioned that atmosphere, and I think I forget who it was, but somebody on the Twins during the time when they were talking about playing in empty ballparks and 50,000 seat stadiums, and you can hear a pin drop as you're playing baseball. How affected was the horse racing atmosphere? Did racers notice no fans, or was it just more business as normal if you were on the track?
Well, that's an interesting question because I still remember the first race on June 11th when we reopened. And if you weren't watching the race, if you weren't looking at the starting gate, you might not have known the action. You wouldn't have known the action began because normally there's a cheer from the crowd, and there wasn't because we were limited to 200 people at that time. So I think the actual participants, like the jockeys, now, depending on where they come from, and Canterbury is unique. When I mentioned that fan base that we've got, and the average crowd is 6,500, there's racetracks, for example, in Phoenix or other places like that, where they don't have those kind of fans. Unless they're doing some kind of giveaway of some kind where they'll get thousands, they might have a few hundred fans at the track on any given day. So I think that it was kind of business as usual for people coming from those types of tracks, but they're used to that roar of the crowd when they round the bend on the horse coming down the stretch, and that was absent. So absolutely the people participating in it missed out on the crowds too, because they also like it. It's like any other athlete where they get pumped up and the excitement is there, and that's kind of missing. We see that now when we watch arena sports, basketball and whatnot, when there's no fans. It's not the same thing, and I think you can see that reflected in the players as well.
And moving forward, like you said, hopefully it can get back to somewhat normal here. But at this time of year, this is your normal quote-unquote off-season anyway. You did say you're open 24/7 usually in a non-pandemic. But what happens around this time in a normal year? What are horse owners, what are jockeys, what are everybody doing here in the off-season?
Well, the jockeys and trainers, generally, they'll leave for another facility when our track closes in the fall. So we'll have horses coming here this spring from Phoenix, from Texas, from Louisiana, from as far away as Florida, Ohio, Nebraska, Oklahoma. So they're all plying their trade in other spots. Now, some of the better Minnesota-bred horses that you'll see might be laid off for the summer, or pardon me, for the fall and the winter. But right now, with about 12 weeks till we really get things going, those horses are back in training. So like athletes, they have to get trained up as well and get back into racing shape. So all of that kind of thing is going on now. So there's trainers based in the South getting their horses ready. They're racing them right now or just training them, getting ready to come up here. So that anticipation level of coming here is high, and we're starting to get the stall applications, people asking to have space to stay at Canterbury to keep their horses. So that's what's going on right now, and that's where the excitement is. And we announced our purse structure and our stake schedule, and it's back to where it was in 2019. Everything kind of took a little dip last year due to the pandemic and the effect on business. But now that we're headed back into 2021, those purse levels are going to be back up. And that's really what attracts the horses and the owners, is they're competing for purse money. And the better money you have, the better horses and the more horses you get. So that really increases the business at a racetrack.
As you mentioned, you just announced those stakes. So what are some of the bigger events? What do you got coming up for 2021 here at Canterbury?
Well, the Mystic Lake Derby on June 23rd is our biggest race, $150,000 purse. And on that night, we'll run about 6 different stakes races. The Lady Canterbury, which has been around since the beginning back in the Canterbury Downs days. The Mystic Lake Mile. We've got the Dark Star, named after the great radio star, Dark Star Turf Sprint. And we've got one other stake as well. So that's a big night. And when you look at our schedule for race fans, we're known for racing on weekends. And last year, because we couldn't have customers, we pivoted. We decided to run early afternoon at 4:30, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and to appeal to the national audience, knowing we couldn't have a crowd. And the amount of money that was wagered was incredible, $68 million, which was for 53 days, and that was $20 million more than our previous record over 69 days of $48 million. So the national crowd really embraced it. So what we're going to do this coming year is race Sunday afternoon with the hopes that we can have fans and have that young fan base and the people out in the stands and get several thousand there and enjoy those kind of family activities along with the racing. And then we'll race Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday evening at 5 o'clock, and again appeal to that national audience, while still attracting a crowd. I think we could still do a few thousand a night on those nights if we're allowed to. So those are the kind of changes we've had to make, like other businesses as well. Every business during this pandemic has had to make those pivots and make those changes that that allow them to stay open. Our real goal, though, is to get back to business as normal and bring those employees back to work, because that's part of the fabric of Canterbury is the customer service and that we've had employees that have worked with us for 20 years and fans that have been around for 30 years, and they're used to seeing the same faces, and that's really what we missed last year. That's the downside to the pandemic, in addition to everything else that's gone wrong with it. But that's encouraging to me that we are headed back there, and the excitement is still there. I think that year off is only going to increase the excitement level as we approach May 18.
Do you see, so you mentioned changing some of the days around, so you're racing on different days than you have in the past. Do you see some of these pandemic-related changes staying even when we do get, quote-unquote, back to normal in future years?
I think you will. I mean, I think you will see Canterbury race on a couple of these weeknights like we are this coming year. We've not, with the uncertainty, we decided that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday would be good. I hope we can get back to some of those Saturday night and Friday night racing like we used to, but I think that when you're a track like us, that's, is a kind of a mid-level racetrack. We're not the Santa Anitas, the Del Mars, the Saratogas, the Keenelands, the big tracks around the country that attract all the national wagering and the national eyes. But we were able to carve out a nice niche last year during a time slot where there wasn't a lot of competition. And those that like to wager on horses, which there's a lot of them out there, and we saw that number just nationally, the amount of horse race wagering online increase around the country. People were introduced to Canterbury for the first time. So hopefully we can craft a schedule that allows us to attract fans, because we need the fan base here. That's what employs our employees, but we also want to attract that national wagering dollar. So there's a balance in there somewhere, and I think you're going to see our business do that, but I think you'll see others as well that'll have to just change to meet the customer demands. And that's I think what's going to differentiate successful businesses from those that aren't when we start to get back to some sort of normal.
Speaking of fans, and I guess you're probably in the dark like all the rest of us are as far as when you can have fans back, when you can have full stands and all of that. But do you hope at some point to have a normal, quote unquote, again, normal crowd at Canterbury this year?
That is the hope, and that was why we set Sunday afternoons for racing. But that really for us, you see the Twins, we can see them pushing right now to try to get some sort of an answer. But that's really the difficulty with, and I'll take just the Shakopee area. You've got Valley Fair here. You've got in the fall the Renaissance Festival. Well, how do any of us that are based on a 4-month intense season make any plans when we have no idea what that means? I mean, Valley Fair was not even allowed to open last year. I don't know how they're hiring and how they're planning. And we're in that same boat where you need a little lead up. If the governor tells us you can have 5,000 people, it can't be Friday and that happens on Monday because you're just not going to have the staff in place. So those are the challenges for business outdoor sporting events like Canterbury with the Twins. And too, we saw the Saints get creative last year with, I think they had 1,250 or 1,500 fans in different 250 segments. And they accomplished it. And we did a similar thing with our setup at Canterbury. But to get back to those big crowds, at some point we're going to need some sort of an advance warning to make it happen, just to get everything in place and make that experience safe and enjoyable for the customer. And that's really the desire, no matter what level we're working at right now. It's the same thing. We need to make sure it's safe. We need to make sure that the customers have a good experience when they're there, because we certainly don't want to go backwards to where we were last year and being shut down again. And that's true with any business. So there's a lot of challenges out there for outdoor events, but I think all of us are planning to be back to normal at some capacity. It's just a matter of when we're going to find that out.
Now, you mentioned for you guys, I think you said like 2 or 3 months before you get jumping for your season. Nationally is now about the time. I would guess maybe some of the southern states, some of the southern tracks might get jumping now, or maybe even into March here in the next few weeks.
Oh, absolutely. This is, with the Kentucky Derby on May 1st, this time of year is when all the best 3-year-olds in the country, all the way from New York to Florida to the middle of Arkansas, even in Texas and in Louisiana and out on the West Coast as well, they're running their prep races. So these 3-year-olds are kind of sorting themselves out. So only 20 horses can get into the starting gate for the Kentucky Derby. So all these big money prep races are run throughout the country, and then horses earn qualifying points. So it's kind of like the NCAA tournament. You get 64 teams. Well, they don't pick them out of a hat. It's based on accomplishments. And same thing with 3-year-old horses. They need to prove that they belong in that starting gate for the Derby. So there's basically a prep race almost every Saturday, if not 2 or 3 of them. And that's exciting for race fans because everyone likes to be, on Derby Day. That's the biggest day of the year for horse racing. That's when there's a national focus. And if you can pick the Derby winner, you're made for the year. You're the guy that picked the Derby winner that year. So this is the time of year that race fans are really starting to follow along and tune in. And you also, for local race fans, there's some of the Minnesota-bred horses are racing in other places and getting ready to come up here too. So that's an exciting time for those that are really following the sport right now.
Speaking of the Derby, we'll end on this. And I know it's really early. Any horse, anything, any early tip that you have for a horse to watch this year?
Yeah, that's a tough question because it is so early right now. There's a horse called Essential Quality that'll be running here sometime soon. Actually, the race was just postponed at Oaklawn in Arkansas because of the winter storm. But that horse won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and certainly will be in the Kentucky Derby and should make an impact if he can improve from that 2-year-old season to the 3-year-old season. So there's a lot of things to sort out yet because there's so many good 3-year-olds. But I'm hesitant to make a stand yet, and I haven't made any future wagers yet either. But probably in the next few weeks here, as we run some of the major preps, we'll all start to have a pretty good idea of what to do for Kentucky Derby.
Sounds good. Hey, wish you all the best at Canterbury Park. And for folks, if they're interested in your schedule, I know you got a great website. Give folks that address so where they can find more info about Canterbury Park.
CanterburyPark.com. Everything you need to know about our year-round operations and our live racing season is right there.
Sounds good, Jeff. Hey, thanks for coming on the program today.
Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it.
And again, thank you to Jeff for stopping by and chatting with us here for a while here. And you heard him talk about all those different ways you can connect with them and their website. Check those out in CanterburyPark.com, a nice website that will list all the things. And hey, I'm hoping to be out there at some point this year, and we can all go back to getting in the stands of whatever sport that you have as one of your favorites. Hey, don't forget, keep that line in the water and introduce a kid to the great outdoors. Thanks for tuning in to Catchin' Carp Outdoors. I'm Joel Niemeyer.
Catchin' Carp Outdoors has been a presentation of KDUZ, KARP, KGLB Radio, and the Ingstad, Minnesota Radio Network. Check out all our past episodes on YouTube.